Greetings and salutations, my friends. I am Pat626, and I host Subculture Shock Sunday nights at 10 p.m. on twitch.tv/DJPat626. And I have been, for several years now, playing... God, how do I even describe the genre, considering it's gone through so many shifts? So, but I've been playing some fantastic music from Psyence Fiction, and so... I'm very fortunate in the virtual studio today to have the ghostly apparition of Psyence Fiction himself. Psy cannot actually be photographed. It turns out he's like a cryptid, which, you know, if you've listened to his music, makes complete and total sense. How's it going?
Oh, it's going well. That is exactly how I would describe it. I'm an internet cryptid. That is the dream here. Well, that is the dream.
You've definitely accomplished it, 100%. So, you know, it's funny. So we've got Syrinx already in chat. Syrinx Star saying, "Hello everyone," and giving hearts to you and I. It's actually Syrinx is how I discovered your music.
Yeah. He's how I found you.
Yeah. So, Pale Gray Sky says the best kind of music, dumb goth shit. So, yep. So like, I don't really keep track of years very well. So instead, I pay attention to artists by when I discover, like, what release I discovered them on. And so Syrinx sent me. He was like, "Hey, I just did this remix for this guy who's making an entire album about Portal," and gave me his Enhancing the Truth remix, and I was like, "Holy shit, this is incredible!" So that's how long I've been playing Psyence Fiction's music, and so it's great to finally be able to chat with you.
Yeah,
person, so to speak.
That would have been about 4 years ago.
Yeah, it was either 2018 or early 2019.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pre-pandemic, so 20 years ago.
Yeah, may as well have been.
Well, now that I'm done fan being all over the place here, I like to start these interviews off with what I call the supervillain origin story. So, how did you even get in to this music? Not even making it. Like, what made you even start listening to goth, industrial, witch house, things like that?
For a lot of goths my age, around, 2000s, our introduction for most of us was Vampire Freaks. This was mid 2000s. They introduced that music player.
Yep.
And that music player was literally just opening a door. It was like, oh, hello, this is what I've been looking for all this time. Electronics with the aggression of metal. Holy shit. Because I grew up either listening to metal or listening to like late 90s, 2000s europop, trance, progressive house.
And you thought never the twain shall meet, right?
I was always like, maybe one day I'll find something that merges those two, because that'd be really cool. And then next thing you know, I'm hearing Combi Christ, Get Your Body Beat.
You know what? Like, actually, to call Combi Christ metal's answer to Eurobeat is the most succinct description I have ever heard of Combi Christ, and I'm really ashamed I didn't think of it earlier.
Because that's exactly what they do. They are that perfect meshing of that classic Eurodance, just go rave, with that raw aggression you get out of metal. So you can beat the shit out of somebody in a mosh pit, but also like have a good time dancing. Depends on the crowd.
Yeah, you can beat the shit out of them with your glow sticks. Even use them as weapons.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've been hit in the head with them before. It hurts. It works.
It's like a radioactive bullwhip.
Oh yeah, exactly.
which
Oh god, the
really
boys.
makes you. I was gonna say it makes you sound like a C tier Marvel villain there.
I mean, I do prefer the Marvel side of the comic book world for sure.
Oh man, we scrap the rest of the interview. Let's talk about that.
I'm not very well versed, but and God, it makes me so sad because I did this before it became a big thing. But I have a Punisher skull tattooed on my forearm,
Oh man.
and now it's become the thing, and I'm just like, oh no, I did
Yeah.
this like
So now
10
people
years
like
ago.
see it and ask you if you're a cop. You're like,
It's like, no, I did this 10 years ago.
Oh God. Yeah. Yeah. Woo.
Because I love Punisher. I love Punisher. He's,
Well, and that's the thing is that Punisher, like, for anyone to like see Punisher and think that the Punisher is not a critique against both law enforcement but also against vigilantism is
Yeah.
completely missing the point.
yeah, it's like like the entire time you're not rooting for a good guy. He's not
Yeah.
a good person.
Like, he is at best a tragic hero.
Yeah.
At best.
Yeah, no, he is as close to villain as you could possibly
Yeah,
get.
no, we don't root for Hamlet. All right, we don't go, hey man, look at this guy look at this guy who's killing his best friends and putting on weird plays to intimidate his uncle and, getting his mother poisoned. That guy makes good decisions. That guy's
Yeah.
got it together.
Yeah, like you're sitting here watching this and you just kind of have that feeling like, I mean, you're not wrong, but that's a little extreme, my guy. You can't just start murdering people.
Yeah. So, no, yeah. Ha.
But
yeah, like I said, we could spend the whole interview talking about comics, and I feel like someday I'm just gonna have to do that. If I were to ever, and he might be watching this because I'm interviewing a Tigersquawk artist, but if I were to ever do like a podcaster or show with Brian Graupner, it would be all about comic books.
Oh yeah,
it would be great. But anyway. So okay. So you've gotten in. You've discovered Vampire Freaks. Okay.
yes.
And you're listening to this music, and it's hitting you in a way that you've been searching for forever. What causes you to then step out of just being a fan and become an artist?
So I had a band in high school. I had been learning the drums, so I was the drummer for this terrible band that we had in high school because most of your first bands in high school are terrible.
There's like an exception that proves the rule somewhere, but yeah, no, you're right.
Yeah, usually your very first band is going to be god awful because you're usually like 15. The fuck do you know what you're doing? And
well, even if you know what you're doing, like musically, you don't know what you're doing.
yeah, it takes a long time to get to positions where I'm at, positions where Trent Reznor has gotten to. It takes a long time.
Yeah.
So I was in that band for a few years, but started fiddling around on my own stuff. It wasn't really so much of this. It was more just general electronic music. I wouldn't know what to call it other than just electronic music. It didn't really classify too well into anything. And over time, I just was like, you know what? I'm listening to the Gothsicles like all the time because that is like huge influence right there. And it really shows itself in my work, in my earlier work. Because I was like, hey, I can be nerdy as shit and still make heavy industrial. So let's do that. And I wanted to just make sounds that are in my head that only I can make. Sure, like especially like my EBM clubbier stuff is kind of like bordering on the generic because that was really popular when I was growing up in high school. That was the 2000s, agrotech. Yeah. Time period, you just have big stompy fucking rave tracks.
What if V&V Nation, but run through a distortion pedal?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what I was trying to make. I think I did a pretty good job.
Yeah.
I made some really good fucking, dance floor destroyers. Then it just kind of kept shifting over time, and all of my dark ambient stuff started to be really more interesting to me, but it never does well in terms of like interest because it's so out there. Whereas, my clubbier stuff was very easy accessibility to anybody and everybody. You don't have to do a lot of thinking. You can just throw it onto a dance floor. Everybody goes nuts. Good times are had.
Right.
But the ambient stuff was a little bit more, you have to sit with it. You have to sit and listen. Otherwise you won't get it. And over time I just found that more interesting. So I've just been going that way.
Slowly in that direction.
Yeah. It's like, let's just get weird. I don't care anymore. I want to be weird.
So, when I first started listening to your music, that was definitely more in the harsh EBM and industrial style stuff. But also, what you were doing at that point, for instance, with your Portal album, was telling stories, but using samples to tell the stories. Like you did that for the entire Portal album, but you also a great track, for instance, one that I played on Halloween at my Halloween gig was Here Lies Beetlejuice, where you just basically use the samples of Beetlejuice to tell the story of Beetlejuice. And honestly, I'm really surprised more people weren't doing that. What gave you that idea to just start using samples to tell stories?
Well, it starts with the fact that for a time I was a vocalist in a metal band. That's now long since defunct, but doing vocals myself, when it comes to metal, really easy for me to do. I can figure it out no problem. For some reason, when it comes to electronic music, I can't figure out how to do vocals. So I just said, you know what? Fuck it, let's just not do vocals.
Right.
Let's do it this way instead. Let's see. I like a lot of video games, and there's enough samples I can find of a video game of a specific character or dialogue that's long enough that if I break it apart, I can string it out through the entire track and not overwhelm the listener with the vocal samples, but still keep it interesting. And so I always wanted to try to structure everything and to tell that long story, because it was the only way I could do anything interesting other than just having just the music, which after some time gets tiring. You needed something to engage with other than just that music. And so I figured sampling would be a good way, and it would help, because I came from the rave scene and listening to a lot of hardstyle and UK hardcore, those vocal samples created really good spots to put in as you're coming through a build-up into a drop.
Right.
And it helps really pump that drop even more.
And that's something actually that Syrinx just mentioned in chat, that you're always ever evolving, but there's a professionalism and a musicianship that comes with every track. And that right there, what you're saying, just it's taking the music that you love and all right, so why do I love it? What makes it successful? Okay, so I have to make this drop really pop. But I don't want to sing over it, so let's use samples here to do that. And especially if it sounds like you took in some cases a speech, and if you chop it up to stretch it out over the song, that works perfectly, because right when it's getting to the real crux of the speech is when you're going to start dropping the beat as well.
Yes, that's exactly it, because as that speech goes on, you're going to get those really important points. And if you notice, as you listen through a lot of my work, there's a lot of breaks within, I'll do my intro build up into the first hook, and then we go to the breakdown. As I'm starting to work that second break, that second build up, you hear a little bit more breaks in there to help give each one just a little bit more impact. Those certain phrases that just really stick into your mind.
So this blows me away because it now makes even more sense why on Squawk Jams you covered Cotton Eye Joe. Because not only is that just fucking funny, but that's very much how they do that song. Like, that is a Psyence Fiction song right there. Yeah.
Yeah, I did that song specifically because it became a running meme within my friend group where I would constantly post about how often that song would get stuck in my head, which is constant. And it started getting stuck in everyone else's head. And so then I just started trolling everyone. And I'm like, oh, hey, let's do Cotton Eye Joe as the ultimate troll.
But it works because that song is already set up exactly how you were talking about. It starts with just the chorus, and then there's a short verse and another break right at the end of the verse, and then the chorus again, and this bothers me how well this fits.
Yeah, it is a very europop classic anthem, and that is the music that I grew up on, and I love that typical anthem that you get out of late 90s, early 2000s europop. It's cheesy and stupid, and I love it.
So this is very interesting to me because as someone that has followed you both professionally and personally for several years now, I really have come to associate your music tastes with metal. You're probably the biggest fan of metal of anybody I know, and your metal playlists are fucking legendary. And I do not listen to especially more recent Psyence Fiction and think there's a guy that loves metal. So where's the disconnect? Is it more you just channeling your love for europop and industrial, or?
So if we're going into the modern era, the current era of my project, that is actually very influenced by metal. It doesn't sound like it, but it is actually, especially lately with I've been listening to a lot of melodic and symphonic black and death metal.
Okay.
So it's got very big orchestral swelling sound. It's very big and epic. I'm also very into power metal, which is also a general sound that you get with power metal.
Right.
Just nice big swelling epics. And instead of doing it with guitars and blast beats and all that, I've been trying to find ways to do it with this goth trap and just kind of but more of that, the black metal, like atmospheric black metal, very big atmosphere and more haunting side of black metal, where it's not so much about sick guitar riffs, but more creating a ever-present feeling of dread and misery and just darkness.
Interesting. So it's almost like you have black metal, you take out the guitar and the fast beat, and you get Psyence Fiction.
Yeah, there's like it's like bordering there at that point of dungeon synth, black metal, and witch house, which all three of those actually have a lot of overlap. Like a great example is Chicago artist Plagues.
Okay.
He's a big time. He's a really good witch house artist. He actually just did a remix for Gasoline and Vertebrate not long ago.
Right.
And Plagues is phenomenal witch house artist. He also just released a black metal album, and it is equally as phenomenal. And you will find that crossover all the time in these two genres, and I'm like right there at that witch house juncture of witch house and black metal.
See, I wouldn't have even thought of that, and that's fantastic. And so back up a little bit, because I feel like something you said, which surprised me a little bit, was that you would put in these samples because otherwise the music might get boring after a while. And I remember the first album that I heard where you really went away from that completely was Sithari.
Yes.
Which was, despite having no samples in it, a Star Wars album and all Star Wars themed.
Yes.
So how did you rise to the challenge of now trying to tell these stories of like Darth Plagueis and the other, I will fully admit I'm not enough of a Star Wars nerd to remember their names, but telling the stories of all these Sith Lords without any samples, with just the music?
So that came about because that was, as I mentioned before, me starting to be like, you know what? I'm tired of writing EBM club music. I'm tired of this. I'm getting burnt out on ideas. My dark ambient stuff is a lot more interesting because I think the last album I had released just before Sithari was Unmarked Graves, and then I believe it was, I want to say Isolation. Can't remember.
Was Unmarked Graves before Sithari? Am I getting my timeline
Yes.
messed up? Okay, all right.
Yes, it was. Because that was also one of my better releases was Unmarked Grave. It actually did better than I ever thought it would. Yeah, and then Sithari came the following year on, May 5th, of course.
Of course.
And yeah, I was just kind of done doing EBM, so I was like, let's get weird. Let's experiment here. Let's just go balls to the wall. Hey, you know what? I want to learn if I can do a speedcore track. Hey, this is 666 BPM. Let's party. And that's where Scion came from. That was me going, hey, I want to try to do speedcore because it sounds hilarious. And then I was like, oh, hey, let's be a fucking, Dr. Frankenstein here, and let's get speedcore and Witch House mashed together for no fucking reason. No one asked for that one. But that's where, I think that was Malgus off that album?
Yeah.
I can't remember. Yeah, and I was like, hey, let's just make Abominations now. And then after that came Dumb Goth shit, which went back to the classic samples because that was just that track had to get done. And there's a fun story. There's a fun story tied to that track. And then immediately after came my synthwave album, which I have yet to be able to return to. I can't remember how I did that.
You just woke up from a bender one day like, hey, look, I have this album and I have no idea where it came from.
Essentially, like, I learned everything on how to make a synthwave album. I don't know how to make a synthwave album. Yeah, that was a flash of the pan on me on that one. But I just, and it seemed to, and while Sithari didn't perform that great, it felt really good to do that. So after that, I was
really feel like that's the change, though. I see that as the turning point to what we're calling the modern era now.
That was actually it, and that was actually that was the album. And it's funny you say that because that's exactly what the Sithari was, if you know Star Wars lore. So that's funny that I just now make that connection.
Welcome to the Thinks Too Much show. This happens a lot.
Yeah, I never really thought about that one until just now. Yeah, because that's the story with the Sithari, is it's the perfect being that will come destroy the Sith and rebuild them to make them better.
Right.
And okay.
All right,
I'm a bad Star Wars nerd.
You're better than me because I didn't even know. I just knew Sithari had the word Sith in it.
Yep. Yeah, that was the title given to Darth Bane, actually.
Okay. So, I want to go on talking more about the modern edge, but you said there was a funny story about dumb goth shit. Which,
yes.
If you're listening right now and you've never heard this song, it is the ultimate so bad it's good goth EBM anthem. Do yourself a favor and go find it right now. If you're watching on YouTube, just pause the video, go find it, and we'll still be here when you get back. So, what is this funny story?
Okay, so get comfortable. It's a good one, but it's a little bit long.
Is that what she said?
Yes, actually. So, if you remember, way back in like the 2000s when YouTube first came up and out, there was a video that I used for sampling in that song called So You Decide You Want to Become a Goth. And
Right.
it was a PSA instructional video all about, done in the classic, like 90s PSA
Right.
sort of like info video for like a job,
Right.
and just teaching everyone how to be goth. So I was like, hey, that's the perfect track to sample. That's the perfect video for me to do this sampling with, because hell, that was one of the first goth related things I remember watching as a teenager in high school. So I thought it'd be great to bring that back around. Well, if you remember, Brian at the end of that video has a song also called So You Decided to Become a Goth. And that entire song was basically about that whole video.
Right.
Well, fast forward a little bit. It is like 2010-ish, 2011, somewhere around there. Gothsicles come into Kansas City. I am a massive Gothsicles fan.
Right.
Massive. Huge. So, of course, I have to go. Well, while we're there, Brian is playing that song, and I'm sitting there doing something on my phone, and my buddy starts smacking my arm. It's like, Sai, look. I look up, and if you've ever been to a Gothsicle show, you know he always has a projector.
Yeah.
Well, on the projector during the chorus of that song, he has pictures of people, just generic goths with the word goth stamped on it. My picture was up there. My high school picture was up there. So,
oh, I am laughing from a healthy place right now. That is a healthy place.
So he gets done with the set. I go talk to Brian. I'm like, hey, Brian, during that song, one of those pictures you used, he's like, yeah, that was of me in high school, just 3-4 years ago. And he's like, oh my God, no way. I'm like, yes, that was, how the fuck did you get that? He's like, oh, I just got onto Facebook, and anyone who said they were going to the show, I just went to their page and just stole pictures off their Facebook. I'm like, okay, well, we're friends now. And he's like, yeah, you're an honorary Gothsicle. I'm like, oh, hell yeah, this is awesome. So then we fast forward even more. He comes back into town to do a show. He changes up how he does his live shows. So now I'm brought in as a live member. So now I'm an official member of the Gothsicles. We've become pretty good friends by this point. I'm now on his label. And I'm like, hey, you know what we should do? We should ask all of my friends to record themselves saying dumb goth shit for my track, which is sampling videos from Brian of a video that Brian was in all those years ago. Well, one of the people that I sampled was Brian. That track represents the full circle of my life right there, and it all revolves around the Gothsicles.
Serious music from Tigersquawk Records. I bet you didn't realize that dumb goth shit had both. You probably thought that the story was hilarious, but I bet you, the viewers at home, didn't realize it was so serious at the same time.
Yeah, it goes a ways. It is a deep dive into a lot of lore from the 2000s and Gothsicle culture and all that fun stuff. It goes back.
You might say it goes deep.
Very deep. Right into the shit.
The dumb goth shit.
Yeah, and to that point, I always feel like it's probably something that everyone should probably be aware of, which I know most people, especially people who watch you, are going to be aware of the point of that track. But something I figure everyone would be good to know is why this track exists.
Yeah.
It's to remind everyone in this fucking community to stop being so goddamn serious all the time. We're fucking goofy.
Yeah.
We have a lot of cliches that are cliches for a reason. Do too many of us smoke cloves? Yes.
Yes.
Do too many of us write terrible, terrible, sad poetry?
Yes.
Do we all have graveyard pictures?
Yes. Yes.
were fucking lame.
Yeah.
That is lame. We all had that phase where we had some weird, interesting name because we thought we were just deep and super just dark and philosophical. No, we were just fucking...
I mean, okay, so I just changed my middle name to Terpsichore, so I think I'm always in that phase.
Oh, I go by Psy.
Yeah.
Do you know what Psy is short for? A friend of mine said, "Oh, hey, you know how everybody calls you psychotic? Hey, here's a nickname for you, Psy." I'm like, "Oh, that's fun. Thanks."
And then Gangnam Style came out, and the world was never the same.
That wasn't my first issue, actually.
Yeah?
Pokemon was my first issue when I started using that name.
Fair.
Psyduck.
Yeah, I could see that. That you know what
That
though?
guy...
Now I kind of want someone out there, artists. If you are watching this video, I want a picture of Psy as Psyduck.
God damn it! I thought I escaped it. I should have said nothing.
I'll go one better. Recently, in my interview with Grab Your Face, we were talking about how we should make a compilation with with them and Gothsicles and anyone else who wants to be on it, just making songs about shitty Pokemon. And so now you're on that compilation now, and you're doing a song about Psyduck. It's we're done.
God damn it! Okay, I'm in.
Yeah,
I'm in. I'll get to work on something. I have ideas. I'll see if I can sample the Psyduck episode of Pokemon.
Morgwitch in the chat, very surprised learning where Psy actually came from.
Yeah, because she's known me for like 10 years.
Yeah.
We go way, way back.
So, you know, that brings up another question. So you've been on Tigersquawk Records for quite some time.
Mm-hmm.
And pretty much everyone that I've talked to about it, like interviews, like I said, with like Cyrix Starr and Brian Graupner, just have a lot of positive things to say about Tigersquawk. Why is that label so great for a musician, especially, to be on?
So, coming from where I have, prior to Tigersquawk, I was as much of a nobody as you can imagine. I may as well not have even existed on, the internet doing music. Once I joined, literally everything about my music career changed. It opened me up to a whole host of people. At the time, it was small, but it was a very strong network of people that super easy to talk to. Everybody was very willing to help out and show somebody something, give advice, hype each other up. It was a very tight-knit and strong little community. And we've just been growing ever since. And a little peek behind the curtain is that, anytime something comes up, some kind of compilation album or somebody's doing remixes outside of the label, we let each other know. It's like, right. Oh, hey, we saw so-and-so's looking for remixes, or, hey, these people are looking for tracks for this compilation.
Which is why if there's a remix album out there, invariably, if one Tigersquawk artist is on there, 6 of them are on there.
Yeah, you're going to find us popping up because we're letting each other know what's going on out there so we can all be a part of it and have an opportunity to put ourselves out there. So yeah. We're always finding ways to push our names, promoting each other, and just doing everything really as a very strong, singular, as Searing says, a family unit. Like, we are as tight as you can possibly get when it comes to our bonds with each other.
So that explains why that H.P. Lovecraft compilation was like 75% Tigersquawk.
Yeah,
despite not being put out by Tigersquawk.
Yeah, we all really were like, hey, this is a good cause. Let's come together on this and let's do this. Let's actually let's all just start going at this. And we all had a million ideas, a million things we wanted to do. We wanted to make it, we all just wanted to be a part of it and really help push that. And same thing with Steven's compilation for the cancer charity.
Right.
That whole compilation, we were, some of the very first people to even know that this compilation was happening. So of course you're going to find a ton of us on there as well, because we're like, oh, hey, we're like first privy to know. And
if one person on the label knows, the entire label knows.
Oh yeah, everybody knows everything at all times. Like there's very few secrets kept between anybody, really. Like we're always talking to each other because so like Brian says, Tigersquawk started as a JPEG, where we never were, and we aren't even now truly a label. We do functions like labels, but we also operate it as a music collective, just a group of artists hanging out together, and that's all we are, with our own little space, our own little places that were just us can get together and talk and come up with ideas. Like the Squawk Jams album, that was all in-house, just all of us together talking about stupid ideas.
Beautiful. You mispronounced beautiful ideas.
And that's how a lot of our stuff goes. Like what was it, the compilation album, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Crouching Tiger, Hidden Squawk. I came up with the title for that because Brian had no idea. And I was like, hey, here's something that'd be hilarious. Let's go with this. This is obvious as hell.
So I do, as I notice that time is getting away from us, I do want to kind of come back to what we were talking about with the more the ambient style of music.
Yes.
And so, you talked about how you do more dark ambient, and also you're mixing that with trap and with witch house. So how is this different from making the EBM noise sample heavy stuff that you were doing before? Has your process changed at all in branching out like this?
It has absolutely forced me to learn a lot of new things when it comes to production side of things. And I've learned about all sorts of little things when it comes to making my tracks just sound nicer and cleaner. So it's taught me a lot about just being a producer in general.
Right.
And has really opened me up to learning new ways of writing.
Because I know you've never had your stuff mastered, but have you ever had someone else produce your music before, or is it always self-produced?
It's always me.
Yeah.
Just me down here in the basement on FL Studio 20, just plugging away. Whatever crazy ideas I come up with and whatever sounds good at the time, where you run with it as long as we can and see where it goes. And the big difference is that I've had to learn a new formula for how to structure these tracks and how I position them and how certain things are set up within the track. Whereas with EBM, I knew the formula. I had it memorized into my skin.
Right.
So I could just bang those out, no problem. And it just got kind of boring, and I wasn't as interested anymore. And so when I started doing this goth trap, I was like, this is interesting. This is different. This is something that's making me think differently. I mean, yes, it's technically just Salem without the vocals, but this is so interesting. I want to explore this. And I just started going nuts with it and seeing how to actually do it. Because I've always wanted to make trap beats. I've always loved hip-hop. So this felt good to get into, and I wanted to create this sort of bigger idea and more soundscaping, because that's really where my passions are lying, is soundscape. I like soundscapes. I like sitting here playing a video game with just some ambient styled music going on. That's why I listen to a lot of instrumental metal. No vocals, just let the music go.
Right.
and see where it ends up. Because when you're having to create the mood without lyrics and strictly the music, you really need to think about, okay, well, how are these sounds going to interact, and how can I shift the mood just with that tone? How much silence do I actually need to put into this track to really accentuate a point that I'm trying to make?
Okay, now
And
that's a fascinating consideration too.
yeah, like, you can't just use sound. You have to also use silence. That is a useful tool. Maybe I need a good few seconds of silence here, or maybe I need close to like a good 15 seconds of silence or slight soft drone behind everything to really convey this point that's coming or has just came.
Okay. So, wow, no, you've got me stuck on the silence thing now. The other question I had is gone, because that's almost like a jazz approach to music.
Yeah.
That's not something that you really get in electronic musicians.
Because when you're creating atmosphere, silence is just as important as noise. Because what makes a good aspect of a horror movie? It's not
fair.
the jump scare, it's the silence, that anticipation of everything's quiet right now, what's going to happen, and then it hits.
Right.
Or it steadily continues to creep up into this unnerving, unsettling feeling. Things seem all right, but something is clearly off in the situation.
It's that moment in the video game when suddenly there aren't any minions around and you get into a wide open area and the background music goes away. And
Yeah, that it creates that sense of suspense, and that's what I try to do with my music, is basically make a horror movie in an audio format.
Okay.
Where you're just like getting ready for some kind of jump scare or something, but instead it's a dope ass drop into a hook.
Y'all ready for this?
Oh god, that is now in my head. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
And of course it's not the original version, it's the Squawk James version.
Of course. So because this is the Think Too Much show, I want to dive just a little bit more into how much you're getting into this new music, because you mentioned that like EBM was just basically tattooed on your skin. You knew exactly how to do it. So is there a part of you that ponders, am I really getting into this just because it's new? What's going to happen when I feel like I've mastered goth trap witch house? Or is this something that like you really feel like is the future for science fiction, at least for the time being?
The way I've always viewed my music is the reason that I go with science fiction as well as a name is I am just experimenting constantly with ideas.
Okay.
The first part of my career, the first 10 years when I was doing very heavy EBM or just straight up ambient drone, those early years were me just experimenting, learning how to even do this and if I was even capable of doing this. And now I've hit this point of, okay, I can do this. I have proven this. I am here to stay, and just as impactful as anyone of my other peers. I may not have the name, but I know I'm just as good.
Okay.
So now let's just go from there. And this is a new sound. This is interesting. This is fun. I'm enjoying this. Let's ride this out and see where this takes me. And then snowball it into other ideas, because like with that random synthwave album, I did that because I wanted to see if I could. So I'm always trying out new ideas in between albums. Like, oh, hey, let's see if I can make something like synthwave. Well, now I'm thinking, let's see if I can go back to that synthwave at some point and do synthwave goth trap. Big orchestral choir sounds with synthwave. Let's see if we can merge these things and have a nice steady trap beat going behind it all.
So inevitably, goth trap polka is going to happen then.
I wonder if that could be a thing. I bet that could be a thing. I could probably do that. I'd have to think about that one. But I could probably figure out a way to do that.
If anybody could.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna make abominations of music. Like, I mean, another thing that is very, very close to happening soon is, as I keep chipping away at it, is black metal goth trap.
Right.
I have ideas on my guitar stuff because I can't actually play guitar, but I know people who can, and I have ideas with my VSTs and various distortions and whatnot. And I'm like, I could probably do something interesting here and make a good solid black metal guitar riff. The next trick is learning how to make blast beats without a drum kit and make it sound not like a machine gun going crazy.
Right.
So that's my next trick, is try to get some natural sounding blast beats created, and then just kind of like that speedcore witch house track I did, switching between the two and seeing if I can actually make something that sounds like black metal and goth trap, witch house, all in one track, and it actually not sound like you're shifting from first to fifth gear.
Just how much can we Frankenstein this shit?
Yeah, and it sound still natural. It still sound like, oh hey, every single thing that you just did actually made sense and worked. It shouldn't, but it did.
I'm really upset that makes as much sense as it does.
I like to do things in ways that make people go, that shouldn't have worked. I'm annoyed that it works. Okay, shut up. This is the correct way to do things. And then me being ADHD as hell resistant to going, no, I'm going to keep doing it my way. Screw you.
Basically, your goal is to get as many people as possible to respond with the "I guess" GIF, right? Yes,
yes. I like people to respond with the "I guess" or a deep and heavy "God damn it, sigh." I'd like to make people frustrated.
But this has worked because I would be remiss in leaving this interview without mentioning you got to do some compilations with guys that are basically like your heroes.
Oh God, it's wild. Like, what the hell? So many people that I've worked with that I'm like,
go ahead, name drop. This is your moment. Let's do it.
So I have been able to do shows with, like, just recently I did a show with Gasoline and Vertebrate.
Right.
This is my third time hanging out with Brian on not just, fan level, but, this is now one of my close friends. Like, the man's going to be invited to my wedding.
Right.
Like, this man is everything right now to me. I regularly I used to hang out with Tara all the time. In fact, I met Brian one night while hanging out with Tara of Morgue Witch. She and I went to the Afterparty and hung out there. And then I've done a remix for her, and her stuff has been just going off the hook right now.
Absolutely.
It is insane. And
I'll plug my own thing for a second. I actually made my list of fresh Halloween tracks.
Oh yeah, of course. She's been doing incredible with that, and I'm absolutely blown away because I remember way back when we first started hanging out, just how much she's grown in that time. Yeah. And God, who else have I also been working with? Oh, I have. So nothing's been officially announced. So this is a little bit of a teaser for everybody. I have collaborations getting close to release.
Mm-hmm.
I have collaboration with Melting Rust Opera.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, between he and I, we have made something incredible. I can scarcely believe that this left both of our brains, but it has. He's working on some stuff, music videos, and release will be coming here very soon. But it is, oh boy, I can't wait for that to get out there. And then I got another one with an artist named Moonspell, who I just found on Twitter, and she's great. And she messaged me, she's like, hey, I'm doing a EP here soon with a bunch of collaborations. You want to do this?" I'm like, Fucking course I do." So I got that coming, and then here soon also I got to get a hold of Steven again and double check on the status of things. But I have a remix album coming soon with we've got Alia Synesthesia, we've got Batavia, we've got who else is on there? We got a lot of people on there. We got a good number of people. I can't remember everybody. Club Evader and Skull Cultist possibly be coming on there as well. And it is a remix of dumb goth shit. And I even put a remix of my own on there, a goth trap remix of it, and it's a little bit longer. That's right, we got Pale Gray Sky on there. We've got a lot of people on here, and I also have a little hidden bonus track in there. If you like Tetris,
I do like Tetris.
You'll like this track then.
Ooh,
you'll really like this track. Oh my god,
I'm excited now.
I want to release it, but I think I might leave it on there as a Bandcamp exclusive.
Right.
Mostly because I don't want to get hit with Spotify's, oh, hey, your track sounds suspiciously like this other track, and so we won't allow it on here.
Wonder why.
They did that to one of my tracks off Safari, and it sounded like I sampled something from this like deep house, like deep tech house track. I'm like, where? I don't hear it. Why? Where does this sample come from? I don't hear anything that remotely sounds like this.
So really what it is that track has every single sound that anyone ever could make, so that therefore they can get all of the royalties.
Evidently. Yeah, it drove me nuts. That's why Safari is a Bandcamp exclusive.
Yeah. Which is sad because it's definitely one of my favorite ones.
Yeah, I do like to do exclusives though, because I like to hey, you can get everything, but because I have issues with Spotify.
Wait. You have issues with Spotify? You have grievances with Spotify?
I might have mentioned it a few times on Facebook, here or there, nothing too crazy. I may have, made a post or two.
No expletives, definitely.
Oh, of course not. I mean, I'm such a calm and relaxed and totally, just a good Christian fucking person.
You couldn't even get through the whole statement. You couldn't even do it.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
So I like those Bandcamp exclusives. And plus I believe in Bandcamp as a company, so I like to try to drive people to Bandcamp as a site. Just like, go here. This site's incredible and has changed my everything when it comes to being a fan of music.
Yes. No.
Yeah. Best site ever.
That's still where I find new music that doesn't automatically get sent to me.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Most of the metal I find anymore is off there. I mean, it is a great resource, and it's surprising what's on there. You'll find people that are, that you wouldn't consider to be on a quote unquote indie self-releasing platform.
Right.
People who actually have like big names and big labels backing them. You'll find them on there out of nowhere. It's like, what is, Flesh God Apocalypse of all people doing on here? What?
Releasing music.
It's like they're huge. They're a huge name. Why? What? Okay. And then, right after that, you're finding some incredibly no-name artist, one-man band, black metal artist from deep in the middle of nowhere, Russia, where it sounds like he recorded everything on a tin can.
I want to hear that one too.
Oh, it's so good. It's obnoxious as hell. I love it.
So speaking of Bandcamp, then, that's probably the best place to find your music, because that's where you can get everything.
Yes, you will see everything. You will see every single album I've ever released. You will find every remix I've ever been featured on, every collaboration I've done, every compilation album that I'm on. You can find everything right there.
It's a heavily curated Bandcamp.
Yes, I have links to everything. So if you want to go track down something, yes, it's going to require a little bit of scrolling because I am on a lot of shit. I do a lot of shit. I stay busy. But it's well worth it because there's a lot of things you can find. I do wish, my biggest gripe with the site is that I can't structure these albums in accordance to like a column of like, hey, this section is all albums. Hey, this section is all EPs. Hey, this section is all compilations. Instead, it's all just kind of a amalgamation mess
Just
that you
here
have to
are all your
scroll
releases,
through.
yeah.
Yeah, I
Well-
kind of wish I could change that.
Well, they've started rolling out new features, so fingers crossed.
Which is funny because that actually used to be an old feature. If you look at Iserlay's Bandcamp, notice how it looks different than, say, mine or anyone else's. Her layout used to be she used to have, because it was an axis you had use of if you knew where to look, and she figured it out, and she actually has those columns.
Huh.
She actually has the rows. They're kind of broken up that way. Now, new releases don't fit into those columns anymore, I think, but a lot of her releases are actually in rows on her Bandcamp that are structured by like remixes and all this other stuff. So it existed at one point. They just got rid of it for some reason.
Huh.
And I never knew that until I started looking into it, because I asked her, I'm like, hey, how did you do this? Go into the settings, can't find that setting. Start Googling it, lo and behold, they got rid of it.
Huh.
So it's I really hope they bring it back.
Fingers crossed.
That was, yeah, it was very useful.
Bandcamp, I know you're watching right now. Okay, so
Yeah.
let's get on that.
Yeah, you are a 10 out of a 10 site if you do that. Right now, you're just a 9.9.
And I know that the number one thing that matters to Bandcamp is what Pat and Cy think of it.
Of course. I mean, our opinions are why would you not listen to us? We clearly speak the most logical, rational, common sense
Look
in
at
the
it. There's
world.
nothing but truth coming out of our lips right now.
Constant. It is painful to be right as often as we are, which is all the time. I mean, it's whatever.
Not to mention how hard it is to avoid sarcasm all the time, to just be genuine and true.
Well, it's hard to not be sarcastic when people are just so dumb and usually goth and full of shit.
And there's that full circle again. Well done. Well done. So all right, so Bandcamp's the best way to get the dumb goth shit.
Yes.
And do you have any videos out there, or are there plans for videos at some point?
I am not a very big video person. I think I have. Well, I do have one music video, which is the one I did, which was done by. Oh boy, here's a name drop. A remix that I did of Ricky Keys, ambassador to the UN and desertification and big time environmentalist, as well as Grammy-winning artist, as well as, and I can't believe I'm saying this, the legendary Stuart Copeland. I just stumbled my way into that remix, and there's a music video for that, and it is a good video. A lot of Ricky's fans weren't a big fan of my remix, probably because it was a little intense compared to, Ricky does a lot of typical, like, I hate to say it but I don't know a better term for it, but world music.
Uh-huh.
And uses a lot of classic instruments out of India, and it's very pretty, very beautiful, very moving work. And I took that and said, okay, now that's wonderful and all, and I'm really glad you did this, but we're going to make this dark as fuck. And we're going to make it very intense and kind of unpleasant.
So if you don't have bumper stickers or T-shirts yet, there you go. Psyence Fiction. We're going to make this dark as fuck.
That will be my next round of shirts.
Yep. Sign me up. I want one.
Yes.
I will wear that on stream.
I do need to figure out setting up a shop for my dumb goth shit t-shirts. I've been struggling with that for a while.
So, is there anything else that you wanted to leave us with before I cut you off to do more dumb goth shit?
Well, as I've mentioned, I've got a remix album coming here soon. Featuring a lot of great remixes and a little sneak peek bonus track. I've got some dope as fuck collaborations coming out here very soon. Hopefully, fingers crossed that they come sooner rather than later. And I am working on a new album. This is going to be the first year, and I know this is going to be a shock, and it's going to be hard for a lot of people to deal with. But this is probably going to be the first year I don't release 2 albums in the same year. I know.
Sacrilege.
I have been doing it steady for 5 years. I just kind of work at 50 hours a week is really tiring.
Yeah.
So we're gonna get to it when we get to it, and not a moment sooner.
I mean, that makes sense.
Yeah. So there is new work going on right now. I've got a bunch of ideas kicking around. So hopefully sometime next year, maybe middle of next year, I'll have something actually worth showing.
Well, I'm looking forward to it already. You already mentioned it. I want it.
And there will be. It is tentatively going to have some of my introduction into black metal.
Ooh, here we go.
Not the whole album, but there's going to be a little. Let's see how this works.
We're going to dip our toes in there.
Yeah, if it goes well, the next album. Oh boy, buckle up. I hope you like weirdos that live in basements and wear corpse paint.
I mean, I'm talking to you, so.
Well, then, yeah, this will be right up your alley.
All right, let's go. Also, you've got to write a song about Psyduck. It's been decided.
Yes, that one I will. I don't know how I'm going to do that. We'll see.
You know what's going to happen is like a year from now, everyone that I've mentioned this project to is going to show up with tracks and be like, okay, here it is. Put it out. Come on. We did our part. It's your turn, Pat. Get with it, Nick Nevin. Let's go.
I'm sure we could talk Brian into releasing it on Tigersquawk, call it a day.
Well, Cy, thank you very much for joining me. Hey,
thank you for having me. This was a lot of fun. I'm so glad I got to finally do it.
So for those of you that have been regularly watching the show, actually, Cy was one of the first people I reached out to back in March because we've been friends for so long, and work schedules just finally aligned.
I kind of had to force it, but hey, we got there.
That's what vacations are for. Showing up on this show. So for those of you that are watching live, up next, of course, we've got the Afterparty. It is a beatmatched mix show where even I don't know what's going to get played. All I know is I'm going to start off with a science fiction track and just see where it develops from there. So that's right here on twitch.tv/DJPat66. There will also be live art drawn on stream by Jasper during the performance tonight. And if you're watching on YouTube, well, you know that there is at least one science fiction video you can check out, and also make your way to Bandcamp and listen to some goth trap, some synthwave, and some dumb goth shit. Cy, thanks again. Have a great night.
Thank you. You too.